Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Create Your Best Chapter podcast. My name is Vera Ilnitsky, and I work with women solopreneurs, women business owners, helping them increase their impact and also increase their income, feeling confident and without the overwhelm. So if you're interested to find out more, please check me out on my website, createyourbestchapter.com. I would love to connect with you and hear all about your business challenges as well as your business successes. And on this podcast, I talk to really amazing women entrepreneurs who are doing great things in the world, who are creating their own positive impact in their communities, because I think it's really important to bring women together to have real conversations about real things that are happening in our lives and in our businesses, so that together we can be on this crazy journey and support each other and uplift each other and help each other out. And today's guest is Corinne Sato. And I met Corinne through a mutual friend of ours, Lindsay Berry, which is kind of how these things happen. I really believe that we attract, like attracts like. And so we attract really amazing people into our lives, and then they connect us with other people. And Corinne has a podcast that she just started. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And one of the reasons why I knew right away that I was going to, really love Corinne, even though I didn't really know her, was that her handle is Connecting with Corinne. And for those of you who have listened to any of my content, you know that one of my key values and one of my key philosophies is connecting and building community. And that's all that Corinne does, or a big part of what Corinne does. And so we're going to get into that as well. So I was actually recording a podcast on Corinne's podcast last week, and that's going to come out fairly soon. So keep an eye out for that. And that was actually our first time officially meeting. So I love how these connections happen. So Corinne, welcome to my podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thanks, Vera.
Yeah,
I appreciate this.
Of course. So, my podcast is called Create Your Best Chapter, and you are in the midst of creating a new chapter for yourself. And I'm just so curious if you can maybe let us know a little bit about what that new chapter is for you, how you got here, and, how it's going for you.
Right. So I guess the newest chapter is my podcast. I've been working and doing all sorts of things. And my friends, Alex and Katty, shout out to them. They actually do a podcast too called the Pair Genius Podcast. And if you haven't listened to it, it's amazing. They're an incredible couple, and they've started having guests on as well. They started off doing their own Facebook podcast. Anyway, I was listening to them and I was inspired, and I went through a little bit of a transition at the end of January. So I was working at a place, and I just started for the last been there for about a couple months, and they let me go. And I was just like, I was finally in this job where I'm like, yes, I'm loving this job. Like, I feel like it's in alignment with everything that I've been doing. I really love it. But, they said it wasn't me. It just was, they didn't really explain why they let me go. But I just, at the time, was like, you know what, I'm not going to argue with them. And really, at that point, I was just like, it's not worth my energy to really start overthinking about it. So I just let it go, and I just said, okay, well, what am I going to do? And while I was looking for jobs, I was listening to Alex and Katty's podcast, and I thought, I really want to do this. Like, this isn't what I really want to do. And I've done a little bit of journalism. So I went to journalism school back in 2012. I did a post-degree certificate for a year at Mount Royal University. And I learned how to do video editing. I learned about B-roll. I learned about interviewing people. I learned how to write stories. And it just was like, oh, this is what I miss. I miss doing this kind of stuff. And so I thought a podcast would be fun. And I had emailed Alex and Katty, and I said, okay, or texted them. And I said, okay, this is what I think I want to do. I think within a week between my text with Alex, he met me on a Thursday. He came over, we set up stuff, we bought a mic, I had the video camera already, and some other things. And by Saturday, I was sending out emails to everyone. And Monday, I was recording my first podcast.
Wow. It's so amazing. Like, when you make a decision to do something, that you can make it happen so quickly, right? And, tell me a little bit about that, because sometimes I hear from clients or from people that, they're not ready yet, or they need to prepare, or they need to do all this research. And sometimes that's an excuse. And like, how did you just like, okay, I'm just going to make this happen really quickly?
Well, I've been in that position where I've had made excuses a lot. And I feel like even with my own business, I still tend to make the excuses. And it never really like I've never really launched my business per se. I'm still doing things, but I haven't really put myself out there. And thinking of doing it on social media and on Instagram, of putting myself out there and saying like, hey, come to these events and these activities. And I just kept getting, I was launching at the time during COVID, so it was a little bit harder at the time. And then I was working and doing other things. So my business has always kind of been on that back burner. But to answer your question for the podcast, I just sat with it for like a second. I'm like, this is what my heart wants. And I'm in this in this stage of my life right now. I'm like, you know what? We're not getting, I'm not getting any younger. It's almost like I was thinking like quarter life crisis, but I'm like, no, I'm at the midlife crisis now. Unfortunately, don't look it, but I'm at that midlife crisis, and I just like, why not? Why not?
Mhm.
Why not just try it out and see? Like, worst case scenario, I make a couple interviews, it doesn't really work out, or some people, like 2 people listen to it, but at least I've reached 2 people.
Mhm.
And it's just been, I think, a little bit of my ego too. My ego is, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be, I don't want to say famous, but I've always wanted to be kind of well known. Like, I played basketball growing up, and you can't tell, but I'm only 5'2". So in my head, when I was a kid, I'm like, I had dreams of being like the female Asian version of Michael Jordan. That didn't happen at all. I stopped growing in junior high, and I just kept getting stuffed by player, like even got by guards, because the guards were even taller than me. So that didn't pan out. But yeah, I just kind of thought, why not? Why don't I put myself out there and try something a little bit different? And I've been doing a lot of shadow work, and in the shadow work, it's kind of, I pushed that ego down, and why not? Why not do it? So this is
Mhm.
kind of this year of exploring and trying different things, and yeah, getting that podcast out there. And I feel like by creating the podcast, then I build trust.
Mm.
And by creating trust, then hopefully not only will that like help my business possibly, but it also help other people's businesses, and help other people get known and recognized for doing all the amazing things that they do.
Mhm.
Because the reason why I created this whole podcast was, I'm that connector person. I'm that middle person. And it's funny because we talk about Lindsay and being in that fempreneur, and Lindsay had asked at one point, what's your superpower? And I had to think about it for a second. I said, but wait a second. I've connected so many people to Lindsay saying, oh, people who are starting up like women who are starting up their businesses. They said, okay, I'm starting up this business. I'm doing nutrition. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And they said, but I'm not sure where to begin or how to start the marketing. And I said, well, hey, I done this fempreneur course. Go see Lindsay. So I think I sent like a good couple people to Lindsay throughout the years for the fempreneur course. And I was just like, oh yeah, I'm that connector person. And then people come to me and say, hey, Corinne, can you help me with this? Or do you know somebody who can help me with this? And I know so many people in my life doing all the amazing, like all these different things that I have done in my life. And yeah, I just was like, oh yeah, I know somebody, or I may know somebody who knows somebody. So if they can't do it, they might know somebody. Right. And it doesn't have to be just the healing work and the yoga work that I do. It's people who are contractors, people who do different things. Right. So it's not just, like I said, the healing. And then when I started talking to my friends and to people that I know, about community, there's so many people in my life who do so many incredible things. And again, it's not, like I said, not just healing work. And it can be hobbies, and it can be their work. It could be stuff that they do on the side to help create connections.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's really incredible. So I'm not only like creating community in my podcast by saying like, hey, this is what I'm doing, but I'm also showcasing others and saying like, these are the incredible people I know. If you are in a community, and some of the communities are a little bit different, and that's okay. But it's just, all these people I've known in my life, and I've reached out to them, and they're willing to share their stories. So
Mhm. Yeah. And community is so important, right? And I think you and I talked about this earlier, was that, we live in a world where we are more connected, quote unquote, than ever before, through technology, through our phones, through the Zooms, like through all the things that we have available to us. And yet the number one problem in the world is that people feel lonely, or in the Western world anyways, right? That we feel lonely and disconnected. And I hear that even from my clients, that they feel that they don't have a community or a connection, or they're looking for people who align with their values or who are there to support them. And to me, that's one of my number one values, and one of the number one, things that I want to accomplish in my life and in my business, is build that community, and you as well. And I'm also hearing this philosophy of supporting others. So it's putting others first, not your business first, or not yourself first, but it's like, how can you help and serve others, knowing that that's going to come back to support you? Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah, that's right. I mean, the whole idea with connecting with Corinne, like that's with my business, was I was trying to help, and I am helping people to connect themselves back to their mind, body, spirit through energy work. So through yoga movements, and through yoga practices. But I'm not just a yoga teacher. I am a Reiki master, so I can help people move their energy through Reiki. Um, and then I do Akashic Records reading to help people understand past lives. So it's not, when people hear about Akashic Records, people are like, oh, it's a fortune teller. No, we're not fortune tellers. But what I can do is, if you're in this lifetime, you have something that's not explained, for example, like a phobia of flying, and you've never had bad experiences flying, where you're like, I don't understand why I have this phobia. We can explore that and see.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
feel like now a lot of people are starting to, I think, just open up and have a little bit more awareness of energy work. I feel like there is a bit more of, I don't want to say a trend, but like I said, an awareness, or maybe even an awakening of energy and finding truth into ourselves, because I think we're so bombarded with all this news, and it's all, you know, it's I don't want to say an illusion either, but it kind of is, right? Because it's what the media and what Instagram, even through their algorithms, want to show you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even as a business owner, you may feel lonely because you get bombarded, like on Instagram, they listen to the algorithms. So they're like, oh, well, you haven't made like, 6 figures yet in your business. What's wrong with you? And then you get bombarded by all these ads of all these entrepreneurs, right or wrong. Maybe some of them are good, some of them aren't as good, but then they're all like, join my group and learn how to make this money. But it's, I don't want to say scammy, but it can feel scammy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you compare. So we do
Mm-hmm.
that self comparison. And then, and all these other thoughts and feelings come up around all of this. Like, well, I'm failing as my business because I'm not even making anything near near like 6 figures.
Mm-hmm.
And and then you have to buy into these people, and yes, they may have some community, but some of it's not as real as it may be, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could be a lot of smoke and mirrors. And that's what I feel like right now, is that we're kind of going through. So it's filtering through all these messages and all these people, and just really trying to find like our authentic selves, but find people who are authentic and who we can relate to. And I feel like that's where the loneliness comes in, because we see all these images, and it's a comparison, and almost narcissistic, right? Of like, oh, look at all these people and their amazing trips, or they can work from the beach, and why can't I do that yet? And it's, well,
Mm-hmm.
you if you have that intention and you have the hard work, possibly,
Mm-hmm.
but not
Yeah.
everyone's going to, and maybe that's not what everyone wants.
Well, and I think that's the thing, right? I think it's, I call all that noise, right? There's so much noise around this, right? You're saying there's so many messages, and it's true. Like I get sucked into that too sometimes, where all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm comparing myself to all these people on Instagram, where sure, some of them are authentic and some of them are real, and some of them are making lots of money or doing things that maybe I want to be doing, but a lot of them aren't. A lot of it is an illusion, and it's just filtering through that. And sometimes, even if it all is authentic and great, we still need to come back to ourselves, right? Like tune out all of that and come back to, like you said, connecting with our own inner self, our own intuition, our own inner wisdom, to really figure out what it is that you want to do, right? Like not what someone's telling you that you should do, or not what you think that you should do based on all these external messages, but like deep down in your heart. Like, and I think you experienced that with the podcast, because you were like, right away, you said you sat with it, right? And you listened to your heart and you were like, this is the right decision for me. And I guess I wonder, like, what sort of like daily practices or regular practices that you have that help you connect to your heart?
I don't do, like, I'm the worst yoga instructor ever. I always tell people, like, just meditate, do the things, and like I don't do any of that. No, I mean, I think for the most part, I just check in with myself, but I've been doing the work for so long that it's like I can just even lie in bed. So I mean, sometimes I'm that little worm that will just lie in bed for a lot longer than probably maybe appropriate at times, but I'll just even lie there and just be like, okay, what am I feeling in my body? And it's funny because even with jobs, like even with the job that I got let go from, about a week or two before, I started to feel in my body and in that gut of like, maybe I should be looking for another job. And when I get those kind of senses, and I've looked back at all the times where I've either left or I've ended up getting, let go or whatever, I've always had that feeling about, and I'm just like, okay, what's going to happen, right? Like there's like something going on inside me that I start to feel like something's not quite right anymore. Like there's something in the energy and I'm picking up in my body. And I always just have that feeling of like, okay, now it's time to start looking for another job. And then I'm like, okay. And I start kind of leaning into that and I listen to that. And it's usually like, I don't at the time really realize it. And then I look back and like, oh yeah, okay. That's that's why. But it's a lot of, just connecting again, that mind, body, spirit, and listening to what our gut is kind of telling us, or heart, or just how we physically feel in our body when some of this stuff happens. And I've had to go back, and I even when I coach people and I say to them, I don't want to unpack your traumas. That's not what I do. But what we can do is look at all the stuff that was happened in our past. So I get people to write out a timeline, and some of them can be short, some of them can be very long. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, let's look at all our achievements, but let's look at all the stuff that we quote unquote failed at, or we had challenges, or the traumas that came up. But I always say to people to empower ourselves, and again, not to focus on the traumas, because I do some trauma work, but it's more of just, again, connecting, realigning, and connecting back into our bodies with the trauma. But anyway, what I tell people is like, hey, look at what happened here. What did you learn from it? Where is the gold? Like there's people say, things happen for a reason, and then people get triggers like, well, what's the effing reason and whatever else. And I say, no, let's change that word reason to lessons, because what lessons have we learned here? And sometimes, when it comes to certain events and things, lessons don't get learned, because then you see them happening again and again and again. And you can look at history, you can look at different things, right? But when we start to look at it and we actually say, okay, what lesson did I learn here? Where's the gold? And I mean, you think about it, you're like, okay, that was a really shitty time. Okay, yes, we can acknowledge that. But what did we learn from this shitty time? Well, maybe I could just get through it. Perfect. That is the lesson, right? That I could just get through it. Well, how did you get through it? So we unpack how you get through it, so that if the universe comes back and knocks on that door again and says like, hey, I'm going to repeat this, or repeat it in a different way, or show up in a different way, then we can be like, oh, yeah, I remember. And I don't want to say it's kind of like signs and symptoms, but it almost is, right? You can see like, oh, like I've been through depressions before. So when I first went through a big depression, it was terrible and it was hell on earth. But then when I came out of it, I learned a lot about myself. And then when I started to go through a second depression back in about 2010, I could kind of see those signs and symptoms and kind of see some of the triggers that were kind of coming. So it's like, oh, here we go. We're going round two. But the goal was, I said, and I even said to myself, I'm like, I'm not going back down. Like I always vowed to myself, I'm never going back down to that place again. So what do I have to do in order to not go there? So then, I went and saw a psychologist and all this other stuff and got into yoga. Um, so it's just kind of learning and then knowing like, okay, I got out of this, I can do it again. And because I caught it sooner, then I'm not, you know what I mean? Like I'm not going as far back. And yes, there's still going to be some bad days versus the good days. But at the end of the day, I know, like I know the process that I went through. So it's kind of already expecting it and having relived and kind of reliving it, but in a better way.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you saying that. And the thing is that life isn't all just rainbows and unicorns all the time.
No.
And we know that life's going to throw us a curveball at one point or another, whatever that is. And we don't know when that is, but we know that there's going to be challenging times. And to your point, and I 1000% agree that there is a lesson in everything. And we can also, if we're aware and willing and really honest with ourselves, when something hits us that's a negative thing or something that we perceive as negative, our big challenge is we can say, okay, like what did I learn from the last time there was a challenge? What did I do? What worked? What didn't work? And I'm going to really consciously apply that now. And do we need support during this time? Sure, right? Whether it's a coach or a therapist or something or a friend or whatever, but knowing that. And I think the other piece that helps me whenever, something goes wrong, quote unquote, in my life, it's like, okay, that there's a lesson here. And you also know there's a gift in this, right? At some point, maybe not now, maybe not 6 months from now, maybe it's going to be quite a ways, but I have that hope that there is a gift in all this. And that really helps me be in that kind of negative situation. So I appreciate you sharing that and just touching on those points of like the awareness piece and then the resilience piece and the lesson piece, like reframing things as a lesson, not a failure.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes, I think, everyone is their own worst critic, right? And we'll say things that we never say to friends or family, but we'll say them to ourselves. So it's more of just that empowering piece of, okay, yeah, I got let go from a job, or, I failed at something, but it's like, or maybe that wasn't meant for me. So something is meant for me, it will work out. Right. And it's just putting that trust in. And it's hard because you put that trust into, faith, universe, God, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, some things have to be out of our control because I feel like we are these like controlling beings, right? But the only thing we can control is ourselves. Is we can control what we think, how we feel, what we can do. But there's a lot of things like even in our business, we can create a business, but people have to come to us and that's how we make money, right? And if we don't create that and people don't come to us, then the business isn't going to work out. But it's like that with anything. I can apply for a whole bunch of jobs and put my resume out, but the rest is pretty much up to fate almost, right? Yes, I can connect to people and that stuff, and I can do a lot of work or not, or, what I choose to do. That being said, there's still going to be people that I can't control who have to read my resume, who have to reach out, who want to connect with me to have that interview. And then they can say yes or no, I'm a good fit. Right. And so there's a lot that is out of my control. And there is a lot of stuff that and it's the same with relationships too, right? It's the same thing, right? You can meet somebody and have a crush on them or like them, and then they may not like you back, or you do like each other, but timing doesn't work out, or circumstances happen that it just won't work out at the time. But then put that trust in that, what's meant for me will be. And at the end of the day, again, just controlling what can I do? Well, I can take care of myself. And in the meantime, podcast. do things that light you up. Right. And I think that's really the hardest time. And we're in a weird job market right now anyway, to find, jobs are crazy. Like they're asking for an arm and a leg and a firstborn, and they're paying like $16, $17 an hour. In what world can anybody live off of that right now when eggs are super expensive and groceries are crazy and gas prices are through the roof? Right. And then to find something that's decent. you're almost like selling your soul.
Mm-hmm. Which is why maybe having the business is the way to go, right?
Right. And so it's kind of, and that's, and I think it's just, and for myself, for business, it's getting it out of my head, right? Of who
Mm,
wants to be in, like, who would want to come to me. So I think, again, creating this podcast is also creating that trust as well, is to say, like, hey, I'm out there, I'm putting myself out there in a totally different way, not salesy, but if you like what I'm doing, hey, when I do offer an event or when I do offer something, come hang out with me. Let's do,
mm-hmm,
let's do some
mm-hmm.
yoga, or I can work one-on-one with you, or even video editing for a podcast if you want that, or audio editing. I can do that for you. So yeah, it's reaching out and just saying, putting it out to the universe as well, and but creating that trust and networking and building, throwing it out there, and just in a different way, and not in a way of Instagram, because even though I do, like, the only two social medias I have is Instagram and LinkedIn. So to
Yeah,
put
me
it out
too.
there on those two platforms, but then also not be that salesy person either, where it doesn't feel good.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think the other thing that you do as well, so all those things, right? You're putting yourself out there, like I'm trying some different things, but the thing is you're taking action. And I think that's the key, right? Like you can decide, hey, I'm going to have my own business. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to get a new job. I'm going to get a partner, like whatever it is that you want to manifest in your life. You can say all those things and you can sit and meditate and you can journal. But at the end of the day, and hey, all those things are super important, as we just said, right? That's what's connecting you to your awareness, to your body, to your heart, to your intuition. But after all that, you still need to go and take action, right? Because you could have said, you know what, it sounds really cool to do a podcast. Like, I think it's something I really want to do. It kind of connects me back to my journalist roots. I really like to connect other people together. This would be kind of cool. And you could have still been sitting on that since January, and you right, but you're like, in 3 days, you're like, boom, made it happen. And I think that's how you make things happen in your life, by making things happen in your life, like actually taking the action and not just waiting around to be 100% ready. Because guess what? Like, you're never going to be ready.
No, no, we're never going to be ready. But I also think, because it's like in alignment with myself, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people even have being like stuck in like relationships, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear people like, oh, well, I feel like this relationship's ready to end, or it's been a sexless marriage for so long, and people just feel stuck. And then they
Mm-hmm.
make the excuses. But the thing is that I did a meditation a little while ago, and it was interesting because this one meditation was just this, like, it was this little marshmallow stuck, and it was like kind of in this little space where you're kind of moving around a little bit. You're like, okay, this isn't comfy, but then you're comfy in the uncomfortableness, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you're in this stuck space, and you're comfy with with being uncomfortable. Um, so at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, what you need to be in alignment. You need to be in alignment with your head, heart, and soul. So for myself, it was very easy because I've been working on myself for so long that when my soul says something, the heart's like, yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
ready. Or the heart, right? The heart is like, yes, I'm ready to do this. Then the soul's like, I'm in. And the mind is just like, I'm not going to overthink it. But if
Mm-hmm.
we're in a place where we're overthinking, our heart's confused, and it's just like, I have no idea what I want to do. And because of the overthinking in the heart, the soul's like, I kind of know what I want to do, but now I'm confused because the mind's overthinking here. The heart is like scared shitless. I can't, and that's where we get stuck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just putting that trust in ourselves, that,
Mm-hmm.
and listening to one of the things. And even if it's just listening to one of the things, that, like, the soul is saying, like, yes, let's do this. And the heart's like, I have no idea. I'm terrified and a little scared. But it's like, okay, well, trust, because we've
Mm-hmm.
done this before. We're resilient. We can do this. And then by encouraging that heart a little bit, the heart's like, okay, maybe. The mind still may be overthinking and thinking of like all the positives, all the negatives. But it just gets to a certain point where sometimes you have to just take that leap of faith.
100%. Yeah, you have to follow your heart. I mean, that's why we have that saying, right? And it's almost like our mind gets in the way because the thoughts get in the way. And usually they're not even our own thoughts. And I think that's the awareness piece. It's like, is this my thought? Do I actually believe this thought? How can I put that like on hold for a while I check in with my heart and soul and really lead with that and override the thinking, because chances are you want to do the thing that's best for your heart, right? Like your intuition, that's what's guiding you forward. And even if it's scary, it's kind of like learning to do it, even if it's scary and even if you don't really know what you're doing, because otherwise you're going to get stuck in that overthinking and then nothing will happen, right?
Yes. And that's where people get, right? Like, and that's where people stay in these relationships forever, and like, and they're unhappy. And, they kind of look back and they say, well, that, yeah, I should have left a long time ago. And I was listening to this, it was on Instagram, and they talked about a train, and they said, the longer you stay on a train and you're going on the wrong way, the more expensive it is, the longer you stay on it. Right. And then they're like putting in brackets, like, we're not talking about a train,
Right.
but it's
Right.
so true, right? That you spend, like, I was in a relationship for, about I was married for 9 years, in the relationship for about 11. And, we did separate, but and divorce. But at the end of the day, I looked at, like, there was a lot of signs and that I should have left maybe sooner, but it was, maybe things will change, maybe things will get better, right? And it didn't. And then now that I'm out of it, I'm realizing, oh, there's been a lot of things that I'm still carrying. Like, there's still a lot of hurts that I'm carrying and that I'm trying to heal and learn to heal from. And it's until I get into other relationships or even just talking to other people, like, oh, wow, I'm still angry and bitter.
Awareness, right? Awareness
About certain things. And also, I think it's, my confidence, and also, my self-esteem. So it's learning about that kind of stuff too. And so, well, if I got out of that relationship sooner, would my self-esteem and my confidence and all these other things that I'm unpacking now, would that have been lessened? Right? As opposed to staying in it for so long. So that's kind of the lessons too. And then learning that. And it's like, okay, well, now I know what I want in a partner. And now I don't, like, you know what I mean? And when I first met my ex-husband, I didn't really have a lot of expectations for what I wanted in a partner. I was in my 20s, right? Everyone's just like, I just want to find someone. And you get that societal pressure of, like, you're getting older, you should get married. And it's not to say, like, I just picked somebody. That's not the case. But, you don't. This time it's like, okay, I'm not settling.
Well, that's the lesson, right? Like, to to kind of like go full circle, like there's a lesson in all of that. And as you grow and have more wisdom and more experience in your life, you need to be learning from those past experiences and apply them to the current situation and say, okay, how do I actually want to be moving forward? Right? What do I actually want? Am I going to give in to the societal stuff, or am I going to listen to my heart and do what I think is really right for me?
Right. And that's exactly it. And, you just learn from it all. Yeah. And then you just like, okay, I remember this now. So I journal, and I do, to answer your question, to go back, what do I do as a daily practice? My daily practice is journaling. I just write everything down. I usually do it at night. But it depends. Some days, like, I'll have dreams, and so I'll journal about the dreams. But yeah, I just kind of it unpacks my brain a little bit more too. So whenever, and I'll do it throughout the day. So if there's, and I work, and I'm at home a lot right now. So it's like, oh, I'll just go back to my bedroom and I'll just sit on the bed and just write whatever it is. And sometimes, like, I channel things, sometimes I don't, sometimes it's just my thoughts. Sometimes I get messages from spirit. So it's interesting to hear, and to, like, even when I let that happen, my writing changes when I know it's from spirit versus when I write it with just from myself. So, but it is nice because it unpacks a lot of the thoughts at times, and some of the feelings. I'm like, why am I feeling so heavy? And, like, this doesn't make sense. And it's like, oh, okay, I'll just go journal and just let things write, and then just let it just unfold and not really think too much about it. But
yeah. Amazing. Well, we could talk about this for hours, I'm sure. And maybe we will have to hop onto another podcast at some point in time. But I wanted to thank you so much for, being a guest on my podcast, sharing your wisdom, sharing, the lessons that you're learning from all of the new chapters that you're creating in your life. How can people connect with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Spotify or on YouTube. So you can find me at Connecting with Corinne podcast. You can find me on Instagram. I'm Connecting with Corinne on Instagram. I also have a Connecting with Corinne podcast on Instagram. You can find me on my website at www.connectingwithcorinne, and it's spelled Corinne. A lot of people spell my name wrong.com. And yeah, that's where you can really find me. And if you find me on Instagram, I have a link tree, and you can find my podcast. You can find my website.
On all your offerings. So, and I'll put
all my offerings. I'm not offering a lot right now, but it's in the works.
But it's coming. It's coming.
It is coming. Yeah.
So connect with Corinne. Listen to her podcast.
Yes.
Connect with her on Instagram. Watch all of her stuff. She's awesome. And I'll put all the links in the show notes for everyone. And in the meantime, I just wanted to acknowledge you so much for all the work that you're doing, for the lessons that you're sharing, for helping us be more aware and connected to our body, mind, and soul. So thank you so much for that. I look forward to staying connected with you. And for everyone listening, thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.